All right, without further ado, Sumi, go ahead and take it away, friend.
Thank you. Good evening, everybody. My name is Nan mentioned. I'm Sumi Arnheim. I am the recording secretary starting this fall. I have been recording secretary for 33rd District and also for Torrance Council of PTAs. And if you need to get a hold of me, here's my email and I'll put it in the chat at the end. So this slide is showing you the PTAs, the various levels of PTA and their focus, starting with national, kind of a broad vision for everybody, going a little bit more detailed for California PTA, then filtering down to the districts. We are part of 33rd District, and then underneath 33rd District, there are councils, and under the councils, there are units. And I believe the out of council units are, they're here?
Yeah, we've oh yes, in our virtual space today, in addition to some 33rd District friends, is our Norwalk La Mirada Council and units. So thank you guys for being here with us today. And we've also invited our out of council units who get their support directly from 33rd District. So instead of having a council that's situated at their school district level to support them locally, they're loved on and supported by us. So we thought, this is we know that training is important, and we wanted to make sure that they had another opportunity as well.
We have the roles and responsibilities of the PTA secretary. Your job would be to maintain records, to take minutes at all meetings, to sign authorizations for payment, to assist president with agendas and recording of the minutes, and be prepared and organized. And one of the things, the signing of the payment authorizations, you're just not carte blanche signing them. You are, by you signing them, that is an awareness that you are going to embed that information into your minutes. The information would be the check number, the amount, the payee, and the reason why they're writing the check. That would be a line item or budget number. And before the meeting, you would work with the president to send out a meeting notice and develop the agenda. And you would assist your president with sending out the copies of the agenda and any other supporting documents like financial reports prior to your meeting. If you are so lucky to have a corresponding secretary, your corresponding secretary will do this job. Otherwise, it's going to fall on you. Okay. And also to be prepared for a meeting, you should have all of these supplies together in one spot. I personally keep all of my things in a, a tote bag so that way I'm not scrambling the day before the meeting trying to locate all of these things. You should have a updated membership list, a copy of the agenda reports, any previous minutes, your current bylaws, a current roster, including any committees, a list of unfinished business, and then sometimes you're going to need paper for ballots, motion slips, and office supplies. And I have my office supplies in a pencil pouch, and it's got like pencils, tape, Band-Aids, blue tape, pens, a red pen, Post-its, scissors. And what I've come to find out is that at meetings, usually people will come up and ask you for random stuff if you're meeting in person. For some reason, you are supposed to have everything. And they
Yeah, well,
just,
we expect the secretary to
uh,
have a mini stapler. If not,
yeah, I
you
forgot.
if
Yeah, my mini
not,
stapler. Um, and I put in here the red pen. The red pen is for making corrections if you are keeping paper, paper copies of minutes. Okay. All right, and here is a sample motion form. Um, you can see that it's got the date. It tells you what kind of meeting it is, if it's an association meeting, a board meeting, or a committee meeting, and the start of the motion. The motion starts with I move that or I move to. Um, you want to get people trained to use that verbiage. Uh, the motion does not start with I'd like to make a motion or
I motion.
I
I'm
motion. Yeah, that's a big one. I
That's a big one.
motion. Um, and then you need to note who made the motion and that it was seconded. You do not need to write the name of the person who seconds that motion. And then you would put down that it was either uh, adopted or sometimes the motion can be seconded and then you have discussion and it doesn't pass. Then you would write that it was defeated.
So, me, what happens to these motion slips? Should they be kept somewhere? Do they get discarded? What
So,
do you recommend
so
our
what I,
secretaries do?
thank you, Nan. So what I do is I keep the paper motion slips for the whole year in case there's any question. And then at the end of the term, I shred them.
Nice.
And if you're
And
not using a paper motion, you could also we have a Google form that people can fill out. And Nan, you're always so great about doing that. Filling out the motion uh, electronically, and then that Google form goes straight to my drive. It doesn't go to the shared drive. It just goes to my drive. And the reason why you want to use a motion form is so that you record the wording succinctly. Exactly what the person said is the motion that is supposed to be recorded. And if they're walking all around the block, then that's how the motion reads. And that what I know is people get better at making their motions.
that's true. Yeah, no, if you have to write it out or type it out, you rethink how many words and in what order. It would be
Ex
ideal. I've also seen, I don't know if, and Marcy, you have an opinion on this, but your president, as they're making their agenda, and if you are assisting, sometimes if you know what the motion might be, it may be
Mhm.
good to even build that into the scripted, if you're doing a scripted agenda. But when I was president, a few times, I know that people had a hard time knowing when they needed to make a motion and what it ought to say. But because I'd already been in contact with my chairs, sometimes I would just kind of write that out in like a colored, or maybe indent it. And then you have that kind of built into your motion. And it's another way to kind of help people understand or train. Um, but I love the Google one because what's nice is depending on your settings, the individual can get a copy. And then I remember all the motions I make. And now I have my copy too. So it's pretty handy.
It's something that I didn't write down, but is helpful is all of the motions that are made, say at your board meeting, those are going to be moving forward as recommendations to your association. So if you keep a running list of all the motions that were passed, when it comes time to put the agenda together for your association meeting, then you can just compile them very easily. And there is no, things don't slip through the cracks. And if you have it electronically, even better. All right, so here I have the minutes are the legal permanent records of a PTA as a nonprofit organization, and they are kept forever. They should be bound and passed on to your successor. And then eventually you're not going to keep like a gazillion of these or not binders, but motion books at your home. You would eventually move them to a safe storage area. Um, I think for our council, we have a closet in the district office. And then, okay, see that Jasmine has a question. Jasmine, your question?
Yes, hi, thank you. I see here that it's saying that they should be bound. We have ours just in like 3-ring binders,
No.
um, going back a long time.
Okay.
Um, Moving forward, should I just try to bind them? Like, I don't think
Yes.
we have the budget to try to bound everything that's happened previously.
Well, and you're going to have a hard time binding things that have holes in them. So the reason why we
Yeah,
bind them is so that they can't be altered. So going forward, just bind them. And when I see binding, I mean
like professional
they're
bound, right? You can't.
the press bound. Yes, it's adhesive bound or tape bound. It is not the coil and not the comb.
Okay.
Okay. And they're the one place that was doing the binding, the adhesive bound is Staples. And
Okay.
and what's going to happen is for binding the minutes, you're going to have probably multiple books because of the binding can't be more than like an inch and a half, 2 inches. I know for 33rd District, they use a professional binding, book binding company. And it's
Oh,
not cheap.
okay. So we'll have to see how to budget that.
Yeah,
Um, and then do we need to have, I would assume, separate binding books for one for the executive board and one for the open association?
yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
You're binding these books and holding them forever because these are legal documents, and because they're legal documents, it's a permanent record. This is not a PTA rule. This is a nonprofit corporation law that requires you to keep these minutes. It's if a lawsuit should come back after 10 or 15 years, you have the official voted on minutes that show what you did in that year. So please, please, please make sure you're keeping your minutes. Please make sure you're printing them out and binding them. That is corporate nonprofit law, not PTA law. So just so you know.
Thank you. Types of meetings, you have the executive board and your association and committee. The committee meetings could go in with your executive board minutes because usually they are reported on at a executive board meeting, and the actions that are taken at the meetings of each group, as we mentioned, should be preserved through the recording of the minutes, and each group's minutes are different, and the different minutes are required. So your board meeting minutes cannot be combined with your association minutes, as Jasmine had asked.
I have another
Okay.
question on that.
Uh-huh.
Sorry. I understand like we need to have them bound separately, the executive versus open association minutes. Sometimes for us, normally like in December, our executive board and our open association just are one meeting. So I just have one set of notes. Is that a big no-no?
Um,
It should
Or
be
should I print them
two.
out
it should be
twice?
two.
So you'd start, sorry, Sumi, you go.
No, I mean, usually it's not one whole meeting. Usually it's your, well,
Association would have to precede your executive board. In this case, it would be flipped because there's a 14-day requirement between those two meetings. So, right, Marcy, we just had this discussion because we made a
Wait,
motion in
there's
our
a
own.
14, you can't have them on the same night either? Because
No.
like we normally
you,
have like our executive board meeting like the hour before, and then we have our
So
open
what you can do is you
association.
can have your executive board meeting and your association meeting on the same night. However,
Problem.
the executive board meeting has to come before your association meeting,
Yeah.
After.
after your association,
Oh,
because there's a 14-day waiting period between an executive board meeting and an association meeting. So your association meeting would be the 14 days after the one you're having is 14 days after the month before's meeting. You see what I'm saying? So if you have a meeting October 1st and then you have a meeting November 1st, your November 1st meeting is the association meeting actually that coincides with the business that was done in the October meeting. And that makes them within more than 14 days apart. And any business that you do in the executive board meeting on the 1st has to wait for approval of the association meeting the following month because there's a requirement of and this is all nonprofit law, a requirement of a 14-day waiting period between the executive board meeting and an association meeting.
can you write that in the notes so I can make sure that I'm recording that properly? Because I hear you and I'm understanding, but I think I'm missing a little bit of nuance. I'm going to have to take this back to my executive board to make sure that we are doing this properly.
what we're going to be doing is sending out information after this is over, so some slide decks and stuff, I believe, right?
Yeah,
We can,
some resources, some
I'll,
samples.
I'll put a note in that we can add that verbiage in there.
Thank you very much.
Okay, it's great to have a president, former president, and parliamentarian on this call or this meeting training. So we have all of this information in one spot. And moving on with minutes, this is what you should include in your minutes. You have to have the name of your PTA, the date, the place, and the type of meeting, the start and ending time, quorum, if you made quorum or not, attendance list, and the name and title of the presiding officer and any pro tem officers. Pro tem officers are people who are taking the spot temporarily of somebody who's not there. Usually it would be recording secretary or parliamentarian, and do both of them get elected? Does a parliamentarian pro tem need to be elected? The recording secretary
No.
needs to be
So
elected.
technically, yeah, the recording secretary is an election. I know it sounds so formal. It's really quick. It's like you know, you hold a mini nomination for your recording secretary for that meeting. I mean, I'm not an expert there, so Marcy, tell me if you think that's wrong. But because parliamentarians are appointed, you would simply appoint a parliamentarian pro tem. It's just your temporary parliamentarian.
For the most part, we appoint a secretary and parliamentarian pro tem.
Yeah, I've seen it done both
I've
ways.
seen it done
Like I
both
said,
ways.
the election's a little official. I feel like no one would beat you up if you did an appointment, but
Mm-mm.
maybe our parliamentarian might feel differently. Don't tell Gabrielle I said that.
Okay. And then the one thing that I want to mention is if you don't have quorum, um, you can hold your meeting. You just can't take any action on motions. So you couldn't pass any like uh, financials. You can hold the meeting. Uh, you can people can give reports of what they're like if you have a dance committee, what the dance committee is up to. So you are able to do business, but you just can't vote on anything. So it's nothing official. And as a recording secretary, what I do is I keep the number of how many people I need for a board meeting and how many people I need to have at a association meeting. And when I say how many people, it's how many board members at a executive meeting. And then at an association meeting, it's any member. So the count is a little bit different, which is why you have to have your membership list. And voting members at an association meeting have to be members for 30 days before that meeting. They can't just join like on the spot and then start voting. That's not how it goes. And that information's in the bylaws. Okay. For your minutes, what you need to include uh, for your business items, all action that's taken, what's done, not what is said, and your final motions. Approval of your previous meetings minutes, your summary of your treasurer's reports, any contracts, and any election results. And also what to include in your minutes would be reports and presentations, any unfinished business, any new business, announcements, and at the end of the minutes, you would sign.
I have another question for that on signing the notes. Do you sign after the next meeting when the minutes get approved? So if
Yes.
okay. So like
Well,
January's minutes won't get signed until February says, hey, we approved those minutes.
you can actually sign at any time. What you would be noting though is on my templates, I have like a check mark where it says minutes approved as submitted or approved as corrected, and I usually initial in that little line, and then I, I write the date and I initial of whether
Okay.
they're approved as presented or approved as corrected. Okay. Okay.
But I mean, I guess like, sorry, my concern around, but let's say like I'm taking notes for January's meeting. Those notes don't get approved until February's meeting when we make a motion to approve the previous meeting's motion. So I shouldn't really
You
sign January's meetings until February gets until
you
it gets approved in February.
you can sign it any time. And actually you don't need a motion to approve minutes. You present the minutes and they're either accepted or not. I shouldn't say they're not accepted. They're accepted. You don't need a motion to and the wording on
Mm.
your motion would not the motion. The wording on your minutes would be the minutes from January meeting was presented and accept, approved or corrected, and then file for review. And if you
Okay.
want, I can send you a template of what what the what I use for typing my minutes. It it may
Yes,
or
that would
may
be
not,
very helpful.
yeah, it may or may not make sense because it's very specific to uh, the different people and their roles. And what
Hmm.
I do is I just keep that template and then I fill in the information as I go. And a lot of times I cut and paste the agenda and put it into the minutes. But I'm happy to do that. At the end, you can put your name. Well, I see that you're Jasmine. Um,
Yes, I have to put my full name though.
Well, other folks are asking for it too. So
okay,
Angelita, and somebody thumbs upped it, and I think there might be people who
okay,
are interested in templates. So maybe we could see if we can give them some templates because I think that would be helpful too.
that would be
Mhm.
okay. Okay, so what not to include in your minutes are opinions, judgmental phrases, motions that are withdrawn, any flowery language, detailed reports, transcripts of the meeting, discussion of others, and the name of the person who seconds the motion. After the meeting, you would collect all the materials distributed at the meeting. That's like reports, financial, including financial reports, any handouts. You're going to prepare. And the reason why you're collecting those materials is because those are going to go in your bound copy of your minutes. Uh, you're going to prepare and distribute a draft of the minutes prior to the next meeting. If your minutes are approved, you're going to write approved and the date and sign the approved minutes. If they're corrected, you note the correction in red ink. You circle the correction and you write the correct information in the margin in red ink. If you're doing it electronically, you would strike through the incorrect part with red, and then at that part of you can't do it in the margin. So you would do it at the end of the sentence. You would insert in red writing what the correct information was. Um, and only the group that creates the minutes can approve or make corrections to them. So your board is making can approve and make any corrections to board minutes, and your association makes changes or not changes, makes corrections or approves your association minutes. Okay, so here are some considerations. Uh, the correction is in the current meeting minutes. You use Oh, here, I jumped the gun. You use red ink to correct on the master copy. You circle the incorrect words. You write the correction in the margin. You date and initial, and you never erase or fix and then reprint. What you do is if you're doing it electronically, you would make those corrections with strikeouts using a red line strike through and then adding the correct information in red, and then you would need to reprint the total document or however much. It probably will be the whole thing because once you start adding more information, then it's going to make your pages your margins, everything move, if that makes sense. When you distribute your minutes, you're going to provide copies at a meeting. You can summarize. You cannot post minutes on a website, and you do not print your minutes in a newsletter. If you have an association meeting, you can like have some copies and have them pass around. A lot of times for council, we put them on the wall, and then when we're done with the meeting, we take everything back. Okay. And then your job as a board member, you attend and participate in all meetings, you follow the policies and procedures, you understand your fiduciary responsibilities, you maintain confidentiality, and you attain PTA-sponsored workshops and trainings. And if you know, as a recording secretary, that you're going to miss a meeting, please let your president know as soon as possible that she can be, so that person can be lining up a secretary pro tem. Because the hardest thing is for you to, for your group to go to a meeting and then you're like fumbling and you put somebody on the spot that they need to fill in for the secretary. For me personally, I like to know ahead of time to get my mind in the game, so to speak, because that also means that I'm not going to be able, like at a meeting, I'm not going to be able to get up, go to the bathroom. I'm going to have to stay on track. And if I know that going in, I make sure that I have my, I don't want to say my equipment, my materials ready to go. Um, and I'm in a space mentally to take minutes.
Yeah. Well, it's also a good opportunity too. I mean, if you know it well in advance and you can find somebody else, who's willing to do it. If you have a template, if you've got all the goodies, I mean, you'd pass that on and kind of help them feel, comfortable.
Right.
I feel like minutes feel like a lot
Yeah.
unless you're comfortable with like PTA meetings and writing or typing
uh,
furiously.
well, it's interesting because that kind of has been my wheelhouse. That is some, and I'm a note taker by nature, so it's kind of a natural thing. But it's not difficult, but you do need to pay attention. And I think if there are tools there to help, that makes it easier. And the job does get easier. But what I do know is if after a meeting, the best thing would be to type up your minutes right after the meeting. Because if you let like a week or 2 weeks go by, your brain kind of gets fuzzy, and then it's like, was that actually said? I think we did that. I don't know. But anyway, okay. And here's what to include in your book. The minute, the agenda, the annual budget when it was adopted, any changes that are made to it, and all financial reports, written committee and officer reports, financial review reports. Your financial review, that used to be called your audit. Those also need to be included. The bylaw amendments, any bylaw amendments, I don't have sign-in sheets. I have record of attendance, any correspondence, and any flyers or handouts that were presented at the meeting.
The thing that I know that Sumi does that's brilliant is she combines like the roster for your executive board and then has like the month to month and we just initial when we're live or she, marks the attendance and it creates like this record of basically every officer, every chair who should be at the meeting and when they have and haven't been there, which is really helpful. I mean, just to know.
And we talked a little bit about storing what's best for your organization. It's not just the history of your PTA, it is the record that you had the meetings. And like Marcy said, if anyone were to come back 10, 15 years later, you can dig out that information. Those minutes are to be kept forever. You need to bind them. You can use electronic storage, but the format can't be able to be edited, and the storage has to be controlled and maintained by the PTA. So if you're using like a Google group, I think that is one way that you could store. Personally, I think hardbound copies are much easier to find the information than trying to go back through our electronic. Me personally would have an easier time finding it in a book than trying to look on my computer, or not in my computer, on the drive.
Well, and I guess a good way to think about it is because your executive board are fiduciaries, meaning you are financially liable, responsible if something bad happens. If it isn't in your minutes, or if you guys approved something that, or moved forward with something as a board that wasn't approved by your association as reflected in your minutes, you guys could be in really hot water. You could be looking at lawsuits or things. I'm not trying to scare you too much, but I just want to impress upon you that like minutes are that important. And so whether or not you can find them, I mean, Marcy and here at 33rd, we see a fair number of people who get litigiously, kind of legal periodically, and they're reaching back 3 and 4 years. And so, you're trying to safeguard your nonprofit organization. You guys are all entrusted with running this organization and passing it on to the next generation or next set of leaders. It only happens if, we kind of take these bits seriously. It's not the fun, sexy bits of PTA, of which there are so many, but just really important that you guys, understand. And when your board griefs you, maybe, or they're not really sure about why they're doing things, the more we're all trained up, the better we can kind of, stick together and kind of move these things along, I think, more seamlessly. It gets easier too with time.
I like these little guys that you put in, Nan.
Oh yeah.
So if you have any questions, I'm happy to take any questions. Your first point of contact, if you're a unit, is your council secretary, and that is the council. Our 33rd District Council Secretary is Jessica Wong. Her email is recordingSec@33rdpta.org. Here's some other places you can find information. There's 33rdpta.org, and then capta.org has a toolkit and leaders resources there.
We did have one or two questions. Let's jump onto those real quick though,
Okay.
too. Somebody was asking about the nominating committee. Now, I think I know the answer, but so this was in regard to, does the secretary need to attend the committee meetings? Marcy already answered no. Your own committee would basically take their own minutes. This I think we know. But the nominating committee is a very special committee that doesn't operate like any other committee. So what do we do about secretaries or minutes for that particular meeting? And I think that's important probably for everyone to hear this one. We don't keep their minutes, right? It's such a confidential committee. You guys may keep your own notes, but Marcy, I see your finger.
Yeah, you can take minutes in a non-com. However, they cannot go outside of that nominating committee. And as soon as the nominating committee has a signed slate by all the nominating committee members, those minutes need to be destroyed. This has come up at CAPTA, so that's what we've been advised.
Well, and it's not your recording secretary who's going to, unless your recording secretary is part of that body of the nominating committee,
You have your own.
secretary has no business being at that nominating committee meeting. And once they, like you say, Marcy, they'll present a slate. There'll be a nominating committee report. That needs to be that official nominating committee report that is signed by all of your nominating committee members. That goes in with your minutes.
And everything else, if you've got notes, they're all destroyed. Is there another one? I think there was another one.
There is. It says, Janet, I believe, was asking, our previous bounded minutes have been put together in one book, but within the one book, they're separated with their corresponding support documents. Is that okay?
Corresponding support documents like reports and.
Can you give us a little bit more clarification, Janet?
Yeah.
What are the documents?
Yes, so we have association meeting minutes, like my secretary book for association stuff, and then the secretary book for the executive board. And then like the corresponding support documents are like the reports, the budget, our financial review, but they're all bounded together. So in the first section is all the association documents, and then the second section it's all the board, executive board, and then there's just like a divider page in between them, and it's just like one big book together.
And I guess that could work. I mean, part of the reason why you would have, I'm thinking at like district, the reason why we would have separate books would be because some of the things that are in the board, like we have three levels. We have board of directors and then executive board, which are the presidents and the board of directors, and then we have the association. But I'm thinking for like our district, we wouldn't have them all together because there's stuff that is said in our board of directors meetings that is like, it's not like super secret information, but it's not information that everybody needs to know. So we would separate it out. And I know for like 33rd District, that's kept separate. You have two different books.
I think so. I'm going to say at the council level and up, we have confidential information. We have confidential parts of our meetings that, because we manage more people, we talk about other things. So I think at the unit level, you're probably fine with doing what you're doing and binding them together in one book. Just make sure that anything that is in your executive board minutes is not anything confidential, where you're talking about a specific issue or person. I wouldn't be talking about specific people anyway, but if there are specific issues that are not common knowledge, but not,
I think I have an example.
yes.
Let's say, for instance, you guys are at your unit and you're planning a teacher's brunch. Maybe it's a real serious budget crunch for you guys, or maybe you're thinking, past years we've spent so much money. This is not a good idea. You wouldn't want that information because you guys are deliberating body. You're having honest, professional discussions about what could be sometimes sensitive topics. And you wouldn't think like a teacher luncheon is a sensitive topic, but if it used to be you guys were spending some wild amount like $5,000, and now you're like, okay, that's too much. It's a $200 budget and we can donate a bunch of stuff, to make it still nice. And you don't want people to get the sense that they've been shortchanged. You may think that's not really for everybody's common knowledge. That's a decision you guys had to make as a board in order to bring that recommendation to your association. So what the association sees is that the budget has been changed with a bunch of other items, and they can ask about it. A member has the right to ask you about it. Lots of times they won't, but those are kind of examples of discussions you would have maybe as a board that you wouldn't have and wouldn't have that information out for like the greater population. I don't know if that was a good example, but that's just my example.
That's actually a very good example. Thank you.
Um, so I know we wanted to share some goodies with you guys.
So here's some resources. I'm just going to scroll really quickly. This is like kind of hopefully a overview, and this information will get pushed out to the people who are attending. I think Nan's got the attendance list, but here we go. Okay.
Yeah, it's kind of like a summary, like
It is a summary.
written, yeah. But what's nice is there's some really clever stuff in here that kind of helps you with figuring out motions and just,
Yep.
what minutes look like.
So this is kind of an association meeting. If you're looking at just this part of it here, it tells you a little bit more in depth how to. So there's a lot of confusion between motions to pay bills and to ratify. Ratify means that those checks were already written at another meeting, and now you're just you're verifying that they have, not only did you approve to spend the money, but they're being recorded again, that those checks were written. So here we go. No. Okay. Motions when they're not, simple motions. Motions that are made at almost every meeting would be ratification of bills that are already paid and approval of bills that you're going to pay. So bills to pay are bills that you're writing, checks that you're writing right at your meeting. Ratifying means that you are approving and that you know that those checks have been written. This is 2 or 3 times a year. You're going, oh, it's 2 times a year. The financial reviewer makes a motion to adopt the financial review report. If you should happen to have like a bank signer review, quit, resign, then you have to go into, you have to have a financial review of your books immediately. But typically, they're like the adoption period is July 1 to December of a year, and then the following would be January 1 to June 30th, is how your reviews roll. Okay.
Hey, Sumi, can you stop real
Yep.
quick? I was getting a question from somebody privately saying they weren't able to see. Is it, can I just get a thumbs up from a couple of folks that you're able to see Sumi's screen share? I can, so I'm assuming everyone else can,
Oh,
but I've got a couple people saying they're unable to. Sumi, I'm gonna go ahead and just reshare the PDF in case maybe it's
okay.
just acting wacky. Okay, I'm getting a
Okay.
lot of them. You guys got to give us a heads up when we do this stuff, and it's that's okay.
Hey,
Is
it
it?
says I changed it. It said the share screen could only be seen by the host. That's why.
Oh,
Oh, oh, that's wacky. All right,
it,
sorry, you
Anybody
because
else
guys.
see it now?
mine says you are screen sharing.
Yeah.
It says your screen sharing, but it mine says shared screens can only be seen by hosts only. Now I went to all participants. Oh,
All right, sorry about that, guys. Yeah, flag us if we
Oh,
think we're showing something on screen and you don't think so. Please do let us know because we have a
you can
different
see it
view
now.
just by virtue
is
of
it
being
good
host.
now?
Yep.
Yeah. Can you
Okay.
increase the size of the font too? I know at the very
Um,
bottom, lower right-hand corner where it says 100%,
thank you,
jack that.
Nan.
Yeah, jack that baby up to like 150 or 200. Let's just go for
Oh, I'm
broke.
going the wrong way. Let me go.
There you go. Yeah, that's perfect.
Okay.
Yeah,
Sorry.
I think.
And like I said, you will be getting this handout. Okay.
So
These
if you're
motions.
secretaries, I'm going to tell you something. As a president, when I make my agendas, I try to put all my motions in there if I know they're coming.
Mhm.
It helps the secretary, and I send my agenda to my secretary. I send it to everyone early, but I also send it to my secretary with all my notes in it as well. If I have a cheat sheet copy of the agenda with all my notes in it. I try to send that to the secretary ahead of time so they know what's coming. And I also want to, I put all the motions in there so that everyone can see what the motions look like and should be. It doesn't mean we go by them all the time because sometimes they need to be amended or changed a little bit, but it helps everyone see and to be transparent of what the motions are, if you can.
What I love
And
about this also is it makes it really easy to see what the motions are. Like
mhm.
a lot of times, in your board meetings, from one meeting to the next, especially after many months, you may be like, did we ever ratify this? Did we ever approve that? Like, who approved that? What did we approve? I mean, that happens all the time. It really is helpful to be able to go back and say, no, we talked about this at our November event, and here's what we said we were going to do exactly.
And that is why I keep, when I'm the recording secretary, I keep a running list of all the motions made, um, just so that I know what was asked or what was passed and what wasn't. The one thing Marcy, to your point, the fact that you're sending out your agenda early is super helpful especially if your secretary is typing the minutes at the meeting. And that is its own skill set. I will just say that I am not a person who can take those minutes at the meeting on my computer. I just can't. I get confused. I'm on the wrong letters. All of a sudden I look up. It looks like it's who knows what language, but it's not English. But I've been in meetings where the secretary actually can type on her computer. I use a spiral bound notebook and take my minutes longhand with like some sketchy symbols and stuff. And I use this pen for taking, it's a, it's a erasable pen. It's a friction.
Oh, I love those.
I love them. Anyway, here, okay, resignations, withdrawing. Do it. We should take this out. The amendment to the motions. It's just,
Yeah, I feel like it's a PTA 2.0. I think, I mean,
no, I'm just saying that if you have to make an amendment to the motion, it's so, to me, so confusing. It's just easier to have the person withdraw their motion and make a new motion than to, because to me, I could never get it. Let me think if there's anything here. Okay, no, no. I think we're good. I think we're good, Dan.
yeah, I'm
They,
also dropping in chat sample minutes that come from National PTA. These are really simplified, but again, another example of kind of what they look like. We'll make sure you guys get copies of these. Um,
I can send my templates. Am I sending templates for council or more for district? No. Do I need to send it? Oh, I have them for council. I also have them for unit.
Units
yeah,
and
I think
councils,
that
we get templates. We'll put them up on our templates website and then they'll be accessible to everybody.
Okay, I can do that. They're very, well, people could figure it out. They have their own VPs, the names of the VPs. Um, but
Sumi, there's another question. It says, I have not been adding the place the meetings are held on the minutes because they're always on campus. Do I need to add in all the previous minutes? Just from here on out, right?
I think from here on out, you could maybe make a notation um in the current month minutes that meetings, previous minutes, previous meetings were held at the school in the cafeteria. My template, I usually just have it on the header. So the only thing that's going to change is like a room number or the date, but
other than,
they
well,
could cover
some,
themselves.
oh, sorry, Sumi.
I was just going to say they can cover themselves by saying all of the meetings this year have been, you know, September through December were held at the school at room 20.
Yeah, I love it. There's so many little tips and tricks. What else are you guys encountering? What other questions you might have? You can feel free to drop them in chat. We've got a handful of minutes. We just want to make sure you guys have had a chance to kind of maybe you can ask about your practices or things you're doing. And also at 33rd District, or if you're out of council or in council with Norwalk La Mirada, sending your minutes to be looked at by your council. They should be collecting, hopefully, your minutes. And what they should be doing with those, ideally, is like looking or reviewing them and noticing, if your minutes are off. We're not going to come and steal your PTA charter or anything. What we want to do is just set you guys on the right course, and we want to make sure that you are basically running an organization that can stand up to scrutiny, same as any other nonprofit. I know with attendance, usually there's like a need to capture guest seats, or I think I got that name wrong, Sumi, but
Courtesy seats.
courtesy seats. Yeah. So if you have a guest or a visitor who's at your meeting, usually your board meeting, who's just there to maybe give a presentation, maybe they're from the library or the local Y, they're only there at the beginning, usually, given a courtesy seat. They have no rights to vote. They have no, they're just there maybe to present information and answer questions, and then they're asked to, just to leave. After that, they're invited out of the room. So that's kind of handy, I think, to know. Other things I think people often miss, your principal is a part of your executive board, should also be a member, and so is your teacher's rep. So they do count toward your quorum. So those are really important. If you don't have a copy of your bylaws, please do, feel free to let us know in chat. We can make sure you get a copy of those, but check with your president. Usually the new president, and parliamentarian will be the ones who distribute those either as hard copies or as links, as PDFs. So that's pretty important also.
The other thing I want to say is most secretaries are check signers on the bank account. Know that you're a
Oh,
financial.
hmm,
No.
most secretaries,
Oh no. Sorry. You just signed the other paper. Sorry.
you sign the PAs, that's it.
It's your treasurer, your president, and usually a first
Your
VP.
Yeah, your EVP or first
Sorry.
VP.
I'm opening my mouth and I shouldn't be.
No, no, it's the end of a long day. Don't worry, we're
Mhm.
gonna get it in post-production, and that's why you guys don't get it immediately after. We gotta bleep some of
My
this
fourth
out.
meeting today.
Teachers reps can attend the executive board. Now, bear in mind, your president is the chair of that meeting, so that invitation should come from your president. But it is in your bylaws under, I think, Article 5, where it says who the officers are. You'll see, like, it says president, treasurer, secretary, and list a bunch of positions with maybe some lines through some of them if they're not applicable. But your principal and president absolutely, or principal and teachers rep absolutely are part of your executive board. Um, and Brandy, in terms of how many absences, that's also covered under your board. I think under, oof, is that Article 6? Article 7? I don't know. I'm backwards. It's the executive board, the section of your executive board. And it's like you can see that in the table of contents. I believe they say 3 consecutive, but I will tell you, you don't get kicked off of the PTA board after 3 consecutive. I will tell you if you guys are having a hard time getting attendance from specific board members, work with your president and someone should have a brave, honest, professional, respectful discussion about what's going on. Do they need to zoom in maybe? Do they need a conference call in to the meeting? Or maybe your meeting times and dates not really, jiving with the rest of the board. So I would say, let's all make sure we can ensure that people know that they must be there. Also, sometimes that happens when I think I've been on all kinds of boards, some that I've even led sketchily, where maybe like the meetings were a bit more fluid, like they're supposed to be this day, but then they had to be shifted. So sometimes people have a hard time accommodating. And if you guys don't have a solid calendar, I cannot stress enough, like trying to move your president and team and kind of cementing the calendar so that everyone has an awareness well in advance. Um, but they should absolutely be sending a report and we can talk offline if you think it's really an issue. We're happy to kind of, brainstorm some stuff, but
Can I take it out? Is it still in here?
are teachers reps allowed to move and vote? Yeah, they absolutely are at your board meetings again, because they are an executive board member. And they should also be, or they're part of your executive board, and they should also be members. Um,
Everyone on your executive board needs to be a member of PTA.
yeah, yeah. And I would say like all your committees, committee chairs, I think the minute people want to do stuff with you, just make sure they get their membership. I don't know. That might be it, you guys.
Be good.
So I'm going to tell you if you're thinking about removing an officer because they haven't come to a meeting or for other reasons, um, it is a very long and arduous process. To be honest with you, if you start it, it will probably not be finished before you seat a new board the following year. So if that's the reason you're asking, I want to be completely transparent about that. That is something we try not to do. We try to either work it out, figure it out, or there may be extenuating circumstances where it may be not the right time for someone to serve, and we may have to have those tough conversations. But just so you know that we don't just kick people off the board because they haven't been to 3 meetings. It comes down to removing somebody, basically, if need be.
No, good. She said it wasn't really, it wasn't
Oh,
about removing, just more of trying to understand if there was no, but I mean, definitely, I would say if especially if you're keeping attendance, tracking it on a sheet and you're noticing that there's been a gap or spottiness, the chances are that board member, by the time they loop back in, probably is playing a lot of catch up and maybe there is something. So I think we have, the president of your organization is likely very, very busy and lots of meetings, doing a lot of things, approving a lot of stuff. So I think whenever we as responsible board members happen to notice like something is slipping, it's okay to kind of bring that up on the side to your president saying, hey, I don't know if you've noticed, but so and so, hasn't been here for a few meetings and, they haven't submitted reports or anything. You might be the ideal person to flag that because you're noticing it. Whereas everyone else kind of, working on their own projects. Well, my friends, I think we're at time. Thank you guys so much for your patience, for the really great questions, for your engagement. Again, we at 33rd just really love the heck out of PTA and want to ensure that you guys are getting, having successful PTA careers. And we want to, the only way we do that, I think, is by making sure you guys have the information you need and that you know that you're supported and loved on by us sincerely. So, again, your first line of support if you're out of council would be us. It would be Emmy or myself. Um, but you can reach out anyone at 33rd. All roads lead back to all of us. And for the Norwalk La Mirada folks, you'll be seeing more of us in a great way. We want to support and love on you guys, and we already know the good work you guys are doing, so we want to help that along. So thank you guys so much for being here tonight. Thanks, Sumi, for leading the discussion, and we will be following up with some materials, recordings, and all the good stuff. Just give us a few days because we're doing 4 trainings in a row, and that's it's going to be exciting, but also work. So thank you guys so much. Have a great rest of your night.